All right, so now we're going to make a new variable, and this variable is going to be the speed of the object once it falls down. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this variable a local variable rather than a global variable. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that this variable is specific to each of the clones that we create, and it really doesn't affect the other clones that we create. Okay, so we're going to show that a little bit more in action in a second, but for now just make sure you tick this for this sprite only when you're creating this. Okay, so don't click that, don't click for all sprites, just say for this sprite only. All right, so once you click that and name it speed or something along those lines, then okay. And we also want to make sure it's not shown, so just take it off. And what we do is we first got to make sure that when we create a clone, we put it somewhere up here, right? So the y has to be a large number, let's say 150 or something like that. So we say y to 150. All right, and then maybe we can show it afterwards, right? So we first set it to the right position, then we show it. And the x, it can be anywhere between this position of the screen and this position of the screen, right? So we're going to set it randomly for everyone so that every clone appears at a different point, right? So we want all the clones to be up here, but at a random x, if that makes sense. And we're just going to use a random generator, pick random from, we're going to say negative 195 to positive 195. All right. And what we're going to do is we're first going to set the speed to a specific number. So we're going to set the speed to, let's say, -1, right? And the speed is going to be basically the speed of the apple coming down. So it has to be a negative number because it's the y is decreasing, if that makes sense, right? So we're going to set it initially to -1. And what we're going to do is we're going to have kind of a gravity effect that as it falls down, it increases its speed as it goes down, right? So we want it to first slow a little bit slower, but as it goes down, obviously the gravitational acceleration is causing the speed of the apple to go up and the apple to fall down faster. So that's what that's why we wanted to make sure it's a local variable, because every time the apple starts from the top, we don't want the speed to be too high. But once it comes down, we want it to be super high, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a forever loop for this to keep constantly happening, because we want the speed to go up constantly as it is going down. And we're going to say, first of all, change the y by apple speed. So we're going to say change y by the speed variable that we have. Right, so at first it's going to just go -1, but we want that to go up higher. And what we're going to say, we're also going to set a max speed for it, right? So we're just going to check to see we haven't exceeded the max speed. Okay, so if the speed is less than a certain number, or should I say more than a certain number, if the speed is more than about -7, because above -7, that would be just too fast. It'll just start dropping down way too fast for the game to make any sense. So we're just gonna say if the speed is more than -7, then go ahead and change that speed by a little bit, right? Make the speed a little bit more. So we're gonna say change speed by, let's say, -0.2. All right. And what this does is that it actually increases forever. It increases the speed of that apple by -0.2 until it reaches a maximum speed, right? So it's the same thing with real life. The speed of the object reaches a certain maximum and it doesn't go more than that, right? So our maximum is basically -7. We don't want it to go down by more than -7. All right, now what we're going to do is we're also going to check to see if the apple reaches the end of the program, right? That's the next thing we got to make sure, because if it reaches the end, that means we've missed it and it needs to be deleted. So we're going to say, hey, if this specific clone ends up touching one of the edges, so we're just going to go to sensing, we're going to go to touching, and we're just going to say edge, right? So one of the edge of the screen. If it touches one of the edges, then we're just going to delete the clone, right? Get rid of it because it's no longer edible, if that makes sense. And we're also going to say that, hey, but if it touches the bear without touching the edge, in that case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to reward some points for that. So we're going to say if touching the standing bear, then we're gonna change the score by +1 because we're essentially rewarding you some score. We change the score by +1, and we're gonna delete the clone then because it's been eaten, so it's good to go. Like, you don't need to see that apple anymore because the bear ate it, you got the point, and the apple needs to now go away. So we just go for delete this clone. All right, so that's what we do. So we just forever check for this. We check that our speed goes up, we change the y by speed, and then we check to see if it touches either the edge or the bear, and it'll act accordingly. All right, now we want something similar for the watermelon. So we're just going to take that and copy it over for the watermelon, so that if a clone of the watermelon has been created, so we can just get rid of this because we've copied the when I start as a clone in the show, we can just get rid of that. We don't need that there. But when we start as a clone and again, the y is the same, we need to set it to 150 and a random x. So far so good. We set the speed again to -1, change the y by speed. If speed is above -7, then keep making it go faster. Now, and again, the same thing. If the watermelon touches one of the edges, essentially gets down to the ground, it needs to be deleted. Now, one more thing though. If the watermelon hits the bear, what we want to do is we want to change the score by a negative number, and we're gonna make it -3 because we want the watermelon to be a huge punishment for the player, right? So if the player eats an apple, they get 1 point, but if they get hit by a watermelon, that'll take 3 points away from them, right? So that they will try more actively to avoid the watermelon because the punishment is just too high, okay? So that's a little bit of an important thing to add in there. All right, so, and again, the same thing happens. Once the watermelon hits the bear, it has been deleted. All right, so we can just try it out, see what it's looking like, and we see that they disappear very nicely. And the score is acting the same way, as you see. And let's say when we get hit, we go to a negative number, which is exactly what we want. And once we eat the apple, we go up in our score, and that's what we want as well. And when we get hit, again, we go down to a negative number. So it's working very nicely. Just check to see that this is working properly as well. In the next video, we're going to add a little bit more fun stuff. We're going to add some sound effects and stuff like that. So join me in the next video where we go over that stuff.